The big house for the big mouths. What do you think? Big house meaning jail. The big mouths meaning the deep state, especially Comey and also Brennan. And yeah, Obama, the rest of them, you know what? They can't keep their mouths shut. They brag. They're so happy they've done it over the years, how they screwed President Trump. And they're getting themselves in big trouble. Now, Brennan, if you bring this up, goes on all the talk shows and says very silly things that he shouldn't be saying because, well, he's proud of his treachery. We screwed Donald Trump, and he wants to get some credit for it. Well, this is all going to get himself in a lot of trouble. There's a grand jury looking into all this, and his own words are going to do him in. And let's just set this up. We do know that he's a very strange man, all right? And with a delusional view of his power and the place where he used to work, the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, they provide intelligence to elected leaders, sometimes Congress too, right? The executive branch and even the judicial branch. It's a service industry in a way, not how he sees it.
So the U.S. intelligence is the most powerful entity on the globe. So many other countries rely on U.S. intelligence that we feed them this information. But if
the important part is, did you catch it? Most important entity and powerful entity in the globe, on the globe, something like that.
U.S. intelligence is the most powerful entity on the globe.
The most powerful entity in the globe. It's a funny proposition, but that's quite a statement. More powerful than the presidency, the Congress, the judicial branch of government, the Pentagon. That guy is the most powerful man in the world. That's what he's saying. For a long time, he was the head of the CIA. Him! So, this is delusional, this is weird, and it's going to explain a lot as we look through his statements and his books. That guy is hanging himself with his own rope. Next.
The Russians have done this for many, many years. They don't just do it here in the United States. They try to affect the outcome of these democratic elections.
They tried it in France, right after the 2016 election.
Yeah, they have a history of doing that. And
a history of doing that. You see, Russia always messes in the elections. And this is something they pretended it was the first time it ever happened. It's been happening since President Truman, okay? Russia messes in elections, we mess in elections. But when President Trump was involved, they try to say it was the worst thing that ever happened. It's in the intelligence as well. In the recent past, we know it happened, put it up in 2008, 2012. They were trying to sway the election. Now, were they trying to sway it for John McCain or Barack Obama or Mitt Romney or Barack Obama? Probably Barack Obama because he was very tight. He was willing to play ball with Medvedev and let him roll right into Crimea. Not too much happened. Speaking of Obama, he gave them very specific instructions when they were investigating Russian meddling, right? Don't do anything to throw the election. A little bit too explicit. Don't break the law. Read my lips.
They misrepresent the facts, mischaracterize what is said, and then claim that we were engaged in this big conspiracy. Well, as Simone pointed out, President Obama told us, make sure you don't do anything at all that is going to any way affect the outcome of that election. Don't do anything.
Just don't do anything. You got to be told not to break the law. You're thinking about breaking the law. And he actually doesn't put it past Barack Obama to break the law and screw with the elections. This is in his own book. It's called Undaunted. Some people wonder whether President Obama would have taken a more aggressive posture vis-a-vis Russian interference if he had believed at the time that the election was a toss-up or that Trump actually might win. The answer to that question is unknowable. It's at least possible that he would have sabotaged the entire election if he knew that President Trump had the advantage. How about that? All right. There's the first chapter in Brennan's book, which I do believe they're going to be reading from this book at his trial, which will happen, is about January 6th, 2017. This is a much more important day in history than January 6, 2021. This is when the intelligence community, the deep state, they try to take out Trump before he's president. They tried to get him to withdraw, maybe actually turn the whole presidency over to Pence, and he'll get sworn in 2 weeks. It's very strange. And it's also strange that our intelligence agencies would be working on a pretty minuscule issue, as hard as they were, for as long as they were.
I had spent the previous 5 months intensely focused on Russian interference in the presidential election, and by that morning I could have virtually recited from memory the entire Intelligence Community Assessment, ICA, titled Russia's Influence Campaign in the 2016 U.S. Presidential Election.
This is fascinating to me. There's a lot going on in the world. You got to worry about North Korea. ISIS is still around, Al-Qaeda, who knows what, right? Afghanistan. And they go to him on January 6, 2017 for 2 hours to talk about Russia interference, which amounted to about $150,000 worth of Facebook ads. And how much time did he spend? 5 months. This was his big thing that he was concerned about. Also, this is going to come up at the trial. You're the CIA director, but you make it clear to everybody in the world that you hate Trump. And by your own definition, by your own words, you think it's going to affect how you do your job.
The mere thought of briefing President-elect Donald Trump that afternoon, and then gathering with my family a few short hours later at the wake of my father, the moral, ethical, and intellectual antithesis of Trump, jarred my very soul.
Jarring your very soul. That's going to mess with your head. You're not going to have the right judgment. You're going to let all your venom come out. This is a big deal, right? You've been working on this meeting for 5 months. January 6, 2017. Your soul is jarred. This man is not a professional. He's an unhinged, Trump-hating lunatic. Next.
I had spent the previous 5 months intensely focused on Russian interference in the presidential election, and by that morning I could have virtually recited from memory the entire Intelligence Community Assessment, ICA.
Hey. That's a rerun. We just heard that soundbite, right? Let's play the next soundbite, if you don't mind.
While I had witnessed many politicians over the years make hollow campaign promises and specious claims about their own accomplishments and the failings of their opponents and previous administrations, no individual came close to Trump's dishonesty, unabashed self-aggrandizement, and demagogic rhetoric.
He can't see straight. He hates him so much, and it gets worse.
I was shocked at his subsequent electoral college victory. I could not understand how so many voters thought he was qualified, intellectually, morally, ethically, temperamentally, or experientially, to be President of the United States.
All right. He's shocked, and a lot of other people. And who's to blame? The people. The American people.
Were American voters so gullible as to believe that Donald Trump could assume and carry out the responsibilities attached to the presidency of the United States of America, the most powerful position the world has ever known?
It's the people's fault. It's always the people. If only they would listen to intelligent people from the intelligence community, the most powerful entity in the world, right, John? You're going down, man. Next.
I lacked confidence that all the individuals in that conference room had the requisite understanding of classification procedures and controls, not to mention the personal discipline and integrity, to avoid devastating disclosures, either inadvertent or willful.
There were good people in that room. Well, at the time. Now we know. I mean, I don't like Mike Pence, but I like Sean Spicer. He was in the room. I like General Flynn. He was in the room. KT McFarland. These are decent people, and except for Pence. Okay. Next.
Trump's alertness never faded during the briefing, but his demeanor, as well as his questions, strongly revealed that he was uninterested in finding out what the Russians had done or in holding them to account. Rather, he seemed most focused on challenging the intelligence and analysis underlying the judgment among the CIA, FBI, NSA, and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI, that Russia interfered in the election and that the interference was intended to enhance his election prospects. It also was my clear impression, based on thousands of such briefings I have conducted over more than 3 decades, that he was seeking most to learn what we knew and how we knew it.
That's our guy. He saw right through this stuff, right through it. That was one of his first ever briefs. But you know what's really sad here? This is the first time the CIA director has even met President Trump. Not talking about North Korea, not talking about the more important stuff, talking about this phantom and the $150,000 Facebook ads and the Steele dossier. That's coming. All right, next.
While the briefing was uneventful and the president-elect was relatively well-behaved, I had become even more convinced that my long-held assessment of Trump's narcissism, lack of principles, and unfitness for the country's highest office was accurate. He showed no intellectual curiosity about what Russia had done and how it had carried out its campaign to interfere in the election, which suggested to me that he wasn't interested in learning the truth or in taking action to prevent a recurrence. More ominously, I left with a dark feeling that our country was entering what would be a very painful and dangerous chapter of its history.
Left with a dark feeling. That's how you showed up. Your soul was jarred. This guy's it's gonna be great on the stand, all right? You never gave President Trump the benefit of the doubt. You believe the fake news. You say you're in the CIA. You can't see through the fake news and the noise. What is wrong with you? And then this. This is a guy who, take away his security clearance if you haven't already. He never deserved it in the first place.
As the briefing was beginning to wrap up, Trump looked at me and made unsolicited, disparaging remarks about human sources. "Anyone will say anything if you pay them enough. I know that, and you know that," he said. At that moment, my thoughts went to the many foreign nationals who had worked with the CIA throughout its history and had courageously risked and even given their lives because they believed in America and what it stands for. I also thought of how every president I had briefed during my career was deeply appreciative of the CIA's human sources, even if not all of the intelligence they provided was accurate. I stared at Trump, shook my head in disgusted disagreement, and bit my tongue nearly hard enough to draw blood.
Well, he doesn't seem to understand that he works for us, the American people, and the American people elected Donald Trump. And President Trump is right about that. Human sources are notoriously off, and you got to back it up with signal intelligence and transmittal intelligence and all kinds of other intelligence. Otherwise, you make stupid mistakes, or you make stupid mistakes on purpose, like believing the Steele dossier.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.